Yeah, I love that question. What do you hope is under the Christmas tree? Because everybody answer kind of speaks to kind of their personality a little bit. I feel like, because I kind of just want nothing under the tree. I just want just us just to kind of sit and be. Yeah, a little bit. Well, I don't. I have thoughts on adults and Christmas, but it's a whole different thing. And so, like, the kids get gifts. But anyways, I'm not gonna get in trouble today. So, hey, we're in the middle of and getting close to the end of this series on generosity. I'm hoping Hattie Jane doesn't run in here in a minute because I hear her walking in. This has been a really, how do I put this, challenging series for me personally, just to walk through this. And it's really challenging at the holidays, I feel, during this season, because, I've got 40 years of how the holidays and nostalgia and stuff and more stuff is just kind of built into me, that I'm trying to weed out and see what is good and what is right and what might need to be sanctified. But the big idea of this series has been this one point. You can't take it with you, but you can send it on ahead. You can't take it with you, but you can send it on ahead. And the goal of this is not really for us to become better financial planners. That's a good thing. My hope and my goal for this series is that we would learn to have a generous heart, that we would grow in generosity for the things of God. And we've had 3 keys so far that we've talked about as we talk about that main point. First key, God owns everything. I'm his money manager. So the stuff that we get, the houses, the cars, the clothes, the furniture, it's not really our stuff. It's God's stuff that we have in a sense, and we're called to be stewards of those things. And one day God is going to ask us, how did we do with his stuff? How do we manage his stuff? Second key has been this. Our heart always goes where I put God's money. That your heart follows where you put your money. Third key, heaven and the future new earth, not this fallen one, is my home. It's this idea that we don't live for the dot, but we live for the line. Is that image up there, Dave? Like, we have this little bit of existence on earth, and this line is eternity. And it's a foolish investment to invest everything you have into this dot. That as followers of Jesus, being made new, we live for the line, for the future reality. But it's hard. It's just hard. It's hard in a world of materialism. It just is. Especially, we live in a world now with like targeted ads online. Do you know this world? Like if I say, man, I love Michael Jordan tennis shoes, then for some reason my phone keeps showing me pictures of Michael Jordan tennis shoes. No one calls them Michael Jordan tennis shoes, by the way. They are called Jordans. I'm not that lame. But think about this. Think about this. Think about if you talk about, or if you, God forbid, search for new shoes and say, look for new shoes. And what happens is you will find new shoes, and then you'll get all kind of ads saying, hey, buy these shoes. Ooh, but now you need the brown shoes, but you also need the blue shoes. And you got to have black shoes too. And you get all these shoe just ads coming at you. And then once you have all the shoes, the next thing that's coming is you have all these ads for like containers for your shoes, right? Like, okay, now you have 1,000 pairs of shoes. What do you do with them? And I have this great container for just $50 that you can then organize all of your shoes with that. And then once you have that, you get okay, well now you need to clean your shoes. And so you have this stuff on how to clean your shoes and what to do with your shoes when they get dirty. And okay, I get that ad. And then I have the ad say, okay, are you tired of your shoes? You can sell your shoes online. And you can sell your shoes and get money. And when you get money, you know what you can do with that money? You can buy more shoes. And it's the cycle, isn't it? It's the cycle. And that cycle, like we're like in the whirlwind right now, are we not? It's December 10th. We have 15 days till Christmas, and it's like you got to do this, you got to have this. If you don't get this for your kid, their Christmas is ruined. That's a severe trauma. We don't want trauma on our kids. We have to give them this thing it's all of this stuff that we're being sold. It's really hard to live in that world. Because for me, you my mother and even Tracy's parents, my wife's parents were asking, what do you guys want for Christmas? And this is how you know, I hate saying this, that we have been just lost in this world. But like, we have to think hard about what we want. Does that make sense? When there are so many people in the world that have so many needs. Does that make sense? And it hit me yesterday in this conversation with her dad about this stuff. I was like, man, I think about myself and my wants a lot. And it's because I'm caught up in the cycle of materialism. That if you get this shirt, got to have the belt, got to have the pants, got to have the socks, got to have the shoes. I don't have the hair anymore, but I get everything else. And so it's hard. So I was reading about this. There was this PBS show special called Affluenza. It was years ago. And it says there is a modern day plague of materialism. And in this program, they revealed these kind of numbers. The average American shops 6 hours a week while spending 40 minutes playing with his or her children. In a given year, more Americans declare bankruptcy than graduate from college. In 90% of divorce cases, arguments about money play the biggest role. Like there's a problem. I would call it, in a sense, a sickness that's called materialism. Nothing makes a journey more difficult than a heavy backpack filled with nice but unnecessary things. Followers of Jesus, pilgrims in the way, travel light. We travel light. The problem with materialism is that at its core, it's all about acquiring more stuff, is it not? It's more begets more begets more. And with more stuff, you know what comes? More time taking care of our stuff. More money to take care of our stuff. And when you give more and more of your time and more of your money, you know what follows? Your heart. Your heart. Solomon, the book of Ecclesiastes, is a really good, sobering read for all of us in this room. But he makes a lot of insightful statements. And I love that it's Solomon who did it, because Solomon had it all, right? Solomon was the man, you ever play the game in your head? Like, man, if I got $10 million, what would I do with it, right? Well, Solomon had the $10 million. He had more than that. He had all the riches you could ever want. But then he has these different, in Ecclesiastes 5, he says this in verse 10, whoever loves money never has enough money. The more you have, the more you want. Hear this, friends. It's a real principle. And Jesus says, if you're faithful with a little, you'll be faithful with a lot. But if we are just desiring money, we're going to keep wanting more and more money. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. The more you have, the less you're satisfied. Verse 11, as goods increase, so do those who consume them. The more you have, the more people will come after it, right? Verse 11, what benefit are they to the owner except to feast his eyes on them? The more you have, the more you realize it does you no good. Verse 12, the sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether he eats a little or he eats much, but the abundance of a rich man permits him no sleep. The more you have, the more you have to worry about. If that is not America, I don't know what is. We have built so many more barns. You know, I remember this was years ago. We were going by and there was these storage units. I'm not against storage. I've had storage units. I'm not calling you if you have a storage unit. And we're driving by, and one of my kids, Hazer, had asked, what are those? I said, they're storage units. For what? Well, it's just for stuff. Well, what are the houses for? It's like, one of my kids said, why do people have so much stuff? And I was like, why do we have so much stuff? Keeps going. Verse 14, our wealth is lost through some misfortune. The more you have to lose. Verse 15, naked a man comes from his mother's womb, and as he comes, so he departs. He takes nothing from his labor that he can carry in his hand. The more you have, the more you'll leave behind. It's just that simple. As the wealthiest man on earth, Solomon learned that affluence did not satisfy. Stuff did not satisfy. All the stuff did was give greater opportunity to chase more and more mirages. Yeah, I think that's right. People tend to run out of money before they run out of these mirages. They cling to the myth that things they can't afford will satisfy them. That's right. It's like, okay, I got a house, I got kids, I got a spouse. Man, if I had a boat. That boat was that there. You ever see those commercials at Christmas, like the Lexus commercials, where like the spouse surprises like their wife with a Lexus for Christmas? Like they wake up, oh, it's a brand new $75,000 Lexus that I did not discuss with my wife. That's why we have divorce in this country, people. Because I would be murdered if we'd ever did that. Solomon's conclusion was really this. When I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Why do we keep getting fooled? It's because we believe that earthly treasures we see are the genuine items and treasures rather than shadows of the true treasure. Listen, things are not bad, but they're shadows. Does that make sense? So, is it bad to buy your kids gifts Christmas? No, it's not bad, but it's a shadow. Here's what I mean. You're buying your kid a gift at Christmas to be a shadow of the love of the Father in heaven. Does that make sense? The reason that we buy a pair of shoes for our young son is because I want them to understand the Father gives good gifts, but these shoes are a shadow of the good gifts of the Father's love. But we've confused the shadow for the real treasure. Tozer says this, as base a thing as money often is, it yet can be transmuted, this is why you know it's not my quote, transmuted into everlasting treasure. It can be converted into food for the hungry, clothing for the poor. It can keep a missionary actively winning lost men to the light of the gospel and thus transmute itself into heavenly value. Any temporal possession can be turned into everlasting wealth. Whatever is given to Christ is immediately touched with immortality. Now that's exciting, is it not? That my paycheck or my stuff or my toil cannot just exist for the dots, but it can lay hold for the line, right? So if materialism is like a sickness or like a poison, what is the antidote? What is the medicine? Let's go to 1 Timothy 6, if you don't mind. 1 Timothy 6, verse 17. And we're going to see Paul give us some good insight. Paul says this in verse 17. As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. Can I stop right there? Our God is not a scarce God. Does it make sense? I think sometimes the reason that we hoard and we purchase and we go into debt is because we think the Father is like the stingy Father. Our Father takes care of our needs and He blesses us, overwhelms us. He loves us with everything to enjoy. The Father is good. Remember the phrase that Jesus keeps saying in Matthew 6? How much more will the Father love us? If our love for our kids, and we know that our love is pretty selfish, is it not? It's pretty shallow many times. If that's our love, how much more is His love for His kids, correct? There is something beautiful about a kid's Christmas wish list, is there not? It is a perfect picture of childlike faith, right? It's this picture of I want Disney World. It's on the list. You're like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but there's just this perfect wish list. Last night, we were praying before our food, and Hattie was mad at me. And Hattie prayed that I would go away and leave her alone. And she had the most childlike faith when she asked that prayer. She's like, Father, dear Lord, have Daddy leave me alone. And I was like, all right, I hear you. Ask the Father, He provides. There is something, as we walk with God, friends, and there are things in your life. It might be a house. It might be to become debt-free. It might be taking your spouse on a vacation. Those aren't bad things. Ask the Father for those things because He's an abundant God. I don't want to get caught up in a scarcity mindset, but I also don't want, the problem we're in right now is that we're in this mindset of stuff's the answer, and it's not the answer. Let me keep going. I'm sorry. Verse 18. They are to do good. They are to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasure for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so they may take hold of that which is truly life. Paul brings us right back to the treasure principle. Remember this principle, it says this: you can't take it with you, but you can send it on ahead. The treasures we lay up in heaven by giving are a rock-solid foundation that we'll build on when we get there. Randy Alcorn, the guy that wrote this book, The Treasure Principle, he carries in his wallet a little card. On one side it says, God owns it all. I'm His money manager. The other side says, God cares what I do with the money He entrusts to me, and I'd better ask Him. Keeping this near his cash, his credit cards, was a powerful reminder of the power of the money that God asks us to manage, correct? Paul says in 1 Timothy here that being generous and rich in good deeds allows us to take hold of the life that is truly life. Take hold of the life that is truly life. This is the abundant life that Jesus promised. There's something greater out there for us. It's in contrast to the superficial, money-centered life and way of the world. It leaves us empty, does it not? I think across America, December 26th is one of the emptiest days we have, is it not? Because we open the gifts. I'll never forget being a kid. And my parents, there are videos of us, open Christmas morning that my parents spoiled us so much. It's embarrassing to watch how much they spoiled us, right? We got everything our hearts could ever desire Christmas. And I have vivid memories of the day after Christmas of being like, oh, that's it, right? And then many times that childlike, you want, you get, you want again, you want it again. We carry that with us into our 20s, our 30s, our 40s. And the problem is the price tags just get bigger and bigger, do they not? They go from some baseball cards to a house. It's a bad trade. So this leads to our fourth key on our main point today. Here's the key. Giving is the only antidote to materialism. Giving is the only antidote to materialism. The way to break this hold is through sacrificial, generous giving. You know what the act of giving really is? It's a vivid reminder that it's all about God. When you give your money away to kingdom things that you receive no benefit from in this world, in a sense, right? You might feel good for a moment, but in a sense, you're literally giving it away. It's a reminder it is all about God. It's literally an act of faith, is it not? And an act of faith, you know what it does? It grows your faith. When we give, it says, I'm not the point, that He is the point. That God has a higher purpose for my money than my wealth, right? There's a higher point to my life than simply accumulating into a savings account or into stuff. There's a higher purpose in our life. Giving is joyful surrender to a greater person and a greater agenda. Alcorn says this, as long as I still have something, I'm tempted to believe I own it. But when I give it away, I let go control. There's freedom in giving. At that moment of release, the spell is broken. The mind clears. We see that God is the owner and that we are the servant. And others as the intended beneficiaries of what God has entrusted to me. The beauty of giving is what you're doing is when you are hoarding money, God is weaving the greatest story the world has ever seen, heard, or imagined. And when we hoard what God has given us, you know what we do? We step out of the story. And we're not the joy of the story, the excitement of the story, the burden of the story. We step out. But when we give, you know what you do? You step back in. Because at that moment, you're a vessel, you're a tool, you're a player, you're a main character in the story of God's redemptive plan. Does that make sense? Because God is making all things new. And we give a person a cup of cold water, right? That is thirsty. What we're doing is we're actively becoming the hands, the feet of Jesus himself, and we're walking in union with him. We tend to think that like walking in union with God is only like in our quiet time. And that's definitely a part of that, where even this morning I was with God and I heard from him and I was worshiping God this morning. But you know what? When we go to the hub on a Sunday night and we do not want to, it's the last thing you want to do. You want to sit on the couch, you want to watch the game, and you go when you serve the least of these, and you get no credit for it, right? When you do that, you are stepping into deeper union with God. And there is no greater joy in this world than being in union with the Godhead. No greater joy. And when we let go of our time, our treasures, and our talent and give it up to God, we are stepping in union with him. We are abiding with him in his redemptive work. And that's good news, is it not? Whew. C.S. Lewis says this. You probably heard it before. He says, we are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered to us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at sea. We are far too easily pleased. We have settled for a life of unsatisfying material possessions. Like mud pies in a slum, right? God has better plans for us than that. And I pray through this silly class at 9:30 that some chains begin to get broken in the middle of the most chainy season there is, Christmas, right? And that we can break those chains and we push back against the darknesses that this is all about us, and we go forward towards the lights and we invest. Because also, here's the thing too, friends, there is something in your heart that aches for this world. That when you see it, you're in tears and you're not a crier. That many times you stay up late at night and it just breaks your heart that these things are happening in the world. And what's so beautiful about God's plan is that it's unique to all of us. That in this room of 30 people, there are 30 different things that break our heart and 30 ways that we jump on the train of God's plan, right? And give of your time, of your money, of your talents, all those things. And that can start even today. So I got 2 points of application. First, I want you to identify your materialism trap. What is the thing that trips you up? What is the thing that you feel like you got to keep getting? I'll tell you mine. Mine is my kids and stuff. I want my kids to have it all. I'm not saying this is right. I'm just telling you, this is where I fall. And I am wrestling with how do I love and bless my kids and show them the love of the Father and generosity. At the same time, I am kind of feeding this consumerism through them, right? So identify your trap. Second, make a plan to give something away. Relieve the vice grip of ownership. Maybe it's some clothes. Maybe it's some money. Maybe it's your time. Give something away. And can I encourage you, the church There are a lot of least of these in our community. And the church should be the forefront of giving things away to people that don't have much. I think sometimes I don't want to speak on my thoughts here. We should care for the poor, the orphan, the widow. Find the poor, the orphan, the widow among you and serve them in some way. Let your resources go to bless them. I'm going to pray for us, and we're going to go to our tables for some questions for about 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll go to church, go to worship. Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for I thank you for speaking to me as we walk through this, Father. And I thank you for your patience in my life. You are a patient Father. As we talk about money, I think we can default towards shame. And so even in the room right now, Father, would you remove any spirit of shame in the room, Father, and just invite us into your joy and get rid of the mud pies that we cling to. We love you. Speak to us. Guide us. I pray all this in your name. Amen. Discuss your tables. Have fun.